Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Think Future podcast. I'm your host, Chris Kalabukas, and once again, we're coming at you live from deep in the heart of Silicon Valley, California. Did you know that if I hadn't got into technology and computers and innovation, I would have been an architect? That's right, folks. I love architecture, especially modern architecture. I think architecture is awesome. And, even now I'm thinking to myself, is it too late for me to go back to school and become an architect? Yeah, probably. But anyway, so I really love architecture and architects. When I got the opportunity to go see Frank Lloyd Wright's buildings, I've seen them from afar when I was in Chicago once, but I've never been inside to see what they're actually like. So I was in Phoenix a while back, and I got the opportunity to go see Taliesin West, which is his architecture school slash, actually I don't think he called it a school, he called it a experiential something or other, / living quarters out there. And this guy, he was like in his 70s when he built this thing. And I think what happened was that his doctor said, okay, you're having lung problems. You need to go to the Southwest and breathe that clean desert air. So he came down here with a bunch of students and bought up a bunch of land up near the edge of a mountain, far, far away from Phoenix. Or at the time, it was really far from Phoenix. And of course, Phoenix is starting to get closer to it. And it's basically in the middle of nowhere. There's no water, there's no electricity, there's nothing. And they basically took that and they built it into all these structures, a school building, cafeterias, places to live, all that stuff. And it's just amazing. If you ever get a chance to go there, you should go check it out. Incredible. So, like modern architecture, everything. And and during the tour they talked about how everything was being built. Like the walls were basically put together with they built some wooden forms. They had to import wood because there was no wood, there was no trees. They created these wooden forms, and then they had to ship water in from Phoenix to mix with the concrete and rocks in the desert to make walls. So they put the concrete form, they put the wooden forms together. They'd fill it up with desert rubble, and then they would mix in concrete with, like I said, water that they had to bring from Phoenix 40 miles away, and then pour it in here, and they would create a wall out of it. And some of the walls are incredibly tall and whatever. Amazing buildings. And he has this penchant for, and if you've ever been into one of these buildings, this whole compression and release thing. And it's really cool. Basically what he does is that he has you kind of like crouch down when you go in. Like the entryways into buildings are designed to be small and dark. Like they're designed to be small and dark, so you have to like crunch yourself down when you go through this little corridor to get into the house. But then as soon as you walk into the house, or as soon as you walk into this room, it's like this massively huge room with super high ceilings. So you're like, you release, compression and release. So he designed all of the buildings like that. Small entranceways, small hallways, and big open spaces inside. And then he purposely did that to the living quarters too. So any place that you would spend a lot of time in, say the living room, it was huge. It was airy. It was beautiful. It had all these windows, etc. Offices, big windows, etc. Anything that you didn't spend much time in, say like a bathroom or the kitchen or whatever, they were small, they were compact and dark, right? Although kitchens could be like halfway between. You might spend more time in them. So as I'm watching this thing and I'm reading this, I'm looking at this thing and I'm walking through these corridors and I compress and release and all that stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is unbelievably amazing. It's beautiful. It's incredible. The emotions, the sensations you get as you go through these things. I love this. It's awesome. And then I thought to myself, yeah, it's too bad that none of these buildings could be built today. No one will allow anything like this. If an architect like Frank Lloyd Wright, or wanted to build a Frank Lloyd Wright-like structure today, anywhere, they would be banned. Banned! And you know why? Zoning and building codes. Because we have all these zoning and building codes telling us exactly what we can and cannot build. And you wonder why homes all look the same. Homes all look the same because there's rules and regulations saying that they all have to look the same because of, safety. And sure, I can understand that. Sure, I can understand that to a point. But at the same time, it's really kind of tied architects' hands to be able to do cool things like what Frank Lloyd Wright did. So that's unfortunate that there's these building codes and zoning restrictions that basically say you have to build your homes this way. And architects today work around those things to try and create homes that are awesome, but they can't do the same kinds of things that Frank Lloyd Wright could have done. And it's unfortunate because I wish we could do stuff like that. Now, how does that tie to corporate innovation? Well, let me ask you, do you have the same kind of thing sort of tying you up, making sure that your own internal building codes and zoning, which say, ideas have to be X, or products have to be X, or services have to be X, or they have to fit in this little box. They have to have this corridor, this size, and this has to be like this, and this has to be like that. Do you have written or even unwritten rules, probably unwritten rules, which say, here's what you have to do. Here are the areas you have to stay in. And that's why a lot of the ideas that come out of your innovation sessions or whatever are very similar. They're the same or they're slightly better, but they don't go outside the box. They don't do something new and completely different and innovative because you have these rules, these implicit rules built in. You're already limiting innovation by letting those rules take place. In the exact same way, all architecture today, because it has to maintain all these building codes, can only go so far, can only be so different. And maybe in architecture, they have a point because we're talking about safety. But when it comes to ideas, when it comes to innovation, when it comes to building new products and services, doing something completely new, different, out of the ordinary, amazing for your customers, there should be no holes barred. There should be no building codes, there should be no restrictions, there should be no zoning, there should be no internal rules that you come up with to say, you know what, only work within this box. So think about it. Do you have your own building codes and zoning regulations that are suppressing innovation in your organization? You tell me. That's it for me for today. See you next time, and until then, don't forget to think future.